I'm Allendale's Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at your midday weather update. No major changes in thinking at mid-session. Midday, we have low pressure in north central Nebraska, secondary low back in southwest Kansas. Warm front extends out of that Nebraska low all across the southwestern Corn Belt. And we're going to be seeing fairly decent moisture overrunning the top of that across northern Missouri, Iowa, southern Minnesota. We'll see it cross into parts of Illinois and Wisconsin here later this afternoon. South of the warm front, there's one line of thunderstorms that's been moving across Kansas thus far, but I'm looking for maybe a little bit better severe weather outbreak there as we go through the later afternoon and nighttime hours tonight on into tomorrow, something that we're going to have to pay attention to. As it stands right now, though, we don't see any major issues short term that are outside of our scope of what we've been talking about. That is more moisture coming in across the Corn Belt over the next few days. Right now, the best precipitation is going to be over the western half of the Corn Belt between now and probably Saturday. And then we're going to be seeing better moisture as we finish out the holiday weekend and go through next week farther off to the east. I prefer to put both systems together, to be right honest with you, so that as we go from now through, let's say, next Tuesday, Wednesday, I think we're going to be looking at moisture totals, generally speaking, over the entire Corn Belt, 1/2 to 2 inches. The higher amounts initially over the west, then early next week over the east. Coverage probably about 80%. If there's an area that might miss out, looks to me honestly like it'll be central to northern Minnesota, central Wisconsin, maybe Michigan as we go forward. But still good rains coming to a large part of the Corn Belt. Temperatures also easing back. The warmest air came in yesterday. We're seeing temperatures and humidity values drop a little bit today. We'll continue to see them be within the realm of normal, though, as we go through the next couple of weeks. I'm just not looking at any terribly cool outbreak here anytime soon. By the same token, I'm not looking for any terribly warm outbreak either. Precipitation-wise, after we get done with this batch of moisture that comes through over the next 5 days or so into early to middle next week, we'll gear up for another frontal boundary to come through probably toward the second half of next week. I'm specifically liking Friday into Saturday. You can make the argument maybe western Corn Belt areas get some action on Thursday. I guess I'm going to say, who cares? One way or the other, there's going to be some moisture coming. So looking at probably 1/2 to 1.5 inch rain totals there. Most of it, though, in the 1/2 to 1 inch range, and I'd say coverage is going to be about 60%. Then as we go through the 9th, 10th, 11th, see a pair of fronts coming through. One of them, especially toward the end of that period, could be a strong one, that we'll be looking at another 1/2 to 1.5, maybe 2 inches of rain as we head toward mid-month. So there's no reason to back away from our thought process of plenty of moisture, timely rains, systems coming every couple of days or so. And like we said, precipitation is one thing, temperatures another, and the temperatures look good as well. Let's talk a little bit about tropics. We've got a little disturbance sitting off of the coast, the Texas Gulf Coast right now. It's going to be meandering inland over South Texas and then probably curving north, bringing moisture to the southern plains as we go through the next few days. As we go longer term, we have a couple more waves that are across the Atlantic that so far are showing maybe some small signs of development, but nothing short term. As I go longer term in the forecast window, though, I'm seeing another disturbance in the western Gulf, maybe trying to gather together as we head through the tail end of next week and into the week following. This could be a scenario where we see some decent moisture pushing into South Texas and the lower Delta again. The lower Delta will need to watch closely because you know what? We're seeing harvest ramp up big time there. So at this point, any good moisture like that comes in would be detrimental to harvest. We're not calling for that right now. It looks like everything's going to be more Mexico, South Texas based, but we'll need to keep an eye on the western Gulf, and you also probably need to keep an eye with regard to oil and gas interests as well. Other parts of the world that we need to pay attention to, South America, really seeing a slow propensity to change down there. In other words, I see the current pattern that's in play staying that way on into mid-September. So that means we've got okay rains, not spectacular, but not horrible, coming across Argentina. Good rains, probably on the edge of excess, over southeastern parts of Brazil. Rio Grande do Sul, Paraná, Santa Catarina, Sao Paulo, places like that, maybe into southeastern parts of Mato Grosso do Sul. We're going to be seeing rains there, several inches or better, several systems coming through, but then you get north into the key bean areas, Mato Grosso, Goiás, Bahia. We're going to be seeing all of those areas kind of on the outside looking in. And I've had some discussions with a couple of guys on the ground down there. They're not really too concerned about whether or not it's going to delay planting, because it probably won't. But they say that if that pattern were to continue, it might raise some eyebrows. Overall, we look for the pattern to go kind of wet, the same way we've seen here in the U.S. as we get into their solid planting season in about 3 to 6 weeks. But right now, it is something that we're definitely wanting to keep an eye on, especially in those northern and central areas. Elsewhere, no major problems. There was a story out earlier today about some concern about drought in extreme southeastern Australia near the coast. Found that story kind of interesting because those are areas that actually have seen some on-again, off-again rain here recently. Maybe the best rains have been farther inland into New South Wales and places like that. But still, the concern about dryness in Australia right now has to be limited to some very key small areas. And I think there's still a lot of forecasters down there out of the Bureau of Meteorology in Australia that are leaning heavily on El Nino as a big part of their forecast. And that just isn't going to be the case this year. So it'll be interesting to see how that forecast evolves. Our forecast here at Allendale for Australia remains the same. Better rains in years past. Not gully washers by any stretch of the imagination, but we're looking at decent rains. That's what we've got in your forecast. If you've got any questions on the weather, give us a call at Allendale. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.